feel about Kerala? Is this your first time?
Well, Gopi, this is my fourth visit to Kerala, and I have a special association because my first book of poems was published way back in 2006, and that book, Across the Divide, was published by Yeti Press, Yeti Books from Calicut, and T.P. Rajivan was the one who published that first collection. So, obviously I would remember those special days and that special moment when the book came out in 2006. And I love the soul of Kerala because I find that there is so much of warmth and affection in people, and they're always very welcoming. And I like one thing about this place is that it is so green, and that greenery, that the fertile landscape, it is so enchanting, and it brings you close to the Almighty. Another thing that I like about Kerala is that how all religions are living together. People from different faiths, they are here, and we see beautiful churches, mosques, temples. So I can see that it's India at its best.
I just would like to know when did you start writing your first poem?
I think as a kid I was fond of rhymes, and the most important, the significant period of my publishing career as a poet is when way back in 1990s, Kamla Das was the poetry editor of Femina. So I sent in a couple of poems, and all of them were published, and I think that I would say was the beginning of my life as a poet. But prior to that, there was a competition in England, a Lancaster Literature Festival, where I'd sent 2 of my poems and they were published, and I was invited. I became a part of that particular anthology, which was published on that occasion. So I think I've been writing nearly for more than 40 years now. It's been a long time.
How did you write your first poem? Do you remember?
No, but somewhere I think I've been very fond of words, and I feel that that attachment has helped me grow, and it is that affinity with words that has stayed with me even as a child. I love to read books. As a child, I was very fond of books, and the printed word, it brought me close to writing as well. And of course, poetry is there in our everyday life, you see, when you interact with people. And I was also very fond of some Hindi poets, and one particular text that I'm especially fond of in terms of poetry is Tulsi Das's Ramcharitmanas, which I think has absolutely amazing poetry, which has so many nuances and subtleties.
Ranu, you have been teaching poetry, and who do you think are your poets you like in Indian English poetry?
Kamla Das, Jayant Mahapatra. Then there is, I'm also fond of Sri Aurobindo. Among the recent poets, I like Arundhati Subramanian, and I also like the poetry of Mani Rao. These are some of the new poets. Meena Kandasamy, hers is a voice of resistance and rebellion. But I'm also equally fond of Nissim Ezekiel, because I find that his kind of humor is something which you would not find in any other Indian English poet.
Have you been an editor of poetry for your journals?
No, but I was, as head of the department, I initiated a journal in the Department of English and Modern European Languages at the University of Lucknow. That was a journal of creative writing and rhetorica. We ran it for almost 4 years. This was an online journal. Another journal that I'm editing at the moment is Paisam Literaria. You see, I am actually interested and working in the area of disability for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We are running an institute called Paisam at Lucknow, and through this institution we have initiated a journal called Paisam Literaria, which is primarily focusing on disability, but its focus is also creative writing.
When you write your poems, how often do you want to revise them? Do you think there is a meaning of
as
craft
long as
and-
I like, it's when I send it to the publisher, or I always that's the final one. But as long as the poem is with me, there is always scope for revision.
And do you think that a poet should be frustrated if his poems get rejected, or do you think rejection is a
No, I
stepping
don't
stone?
think. I have never seen rejection creating any kind of frustration, but in fact it brings me, it makes me more aware of myself and my shortcomings, and I always see rejection as something, that you have to hone your skills. And especially in this world of poetry where every second person is writing poetry, if you have to, ultimately you have to see whether you have it in you or not. And it's important. I think rejection is very important. It's a stepping stone, because you modify yourself, you learn a lot, you hone your skills, you polish your language. Why should rejection be looked at as something which brings in disappointment? It should push you, propel you to move forward and do better.
And don't you think that editorial decisions being very subjective, what is more important? Is it your confidence in your poetry, or is it the feeling that sometimes you get a rejection and you think, okay, that's one is not good? No, we have had many experiences of many poems which were rejected by many famous poets, which have become classics.
Yeah,
Seen as
that is
classics.
there,
And
yes.
so, how do you think that this kind of...
An editor always has his own personal choice, but that should not deter you from writing. As I said earlier, there's always scope for improvement. And, why should we feel rejected when a poem is... And if it is rejected in one place, it will be accepted elsewhere, if it's a good piece of work.
And how do you know if your poem is a good piece of work?
Let it reach the reading public. They are the ones who decide.
And how do you think the social media has been a boon or a bane to poetry?
Both, because it's boon in the sense that it has encouraged more people to write, but bane also because sometimes you're too full of yourself without knowing where you stand. So why should you fall into that trap of self-praise when you know that the work is not up to the mark? That is why it's important that you send your poetry to various journals. Why should you confine yourself only to Indian publishing? You should send it to as many journals as possible, because that's one thing that I would like. I have seen in many, we have this tendency, you scratch my back and I scratch yours. You pat me and I'll pat you. But then even in the current scenario also, you see there are so many poets who are writing and getting awards, but it's also important to see where exactly have they been published. Is it just a handful of journals that they are subscribing to and writing to? Or you should try and send your poetry, your work to as many places as possible, and maybe to the remotest corners of this earth. Why only confine yourself to India? You could even send it outside. Now that we talk in terms of media and there is so much of global exchange. So exchange, you send your poetry to other journals outside. There are excellent journals that are there across the world. There's Quadite Poetry in Australia, which is a very regular this thing. There is Poetry Review, and there are hundreds of other journals. There's conferences. So keep writing, keep sending your work to as many places as possible. And then, of course, once it's published and once it's accepted, it does give you a different kind of satisfaction and joy, because then you realize that yes, my voice is being heard. Because ultimately, who are you writing for? You're not just writing for yourself, but there is somewhere this deep desire, this within you, that you want people to hear you, listen to you. Otherwise, why would I write? Who am I writing for?
But recently the trend is to take money to publish or to read your poetry. And earlier this was not so in most of the magazines in the US, and that is very, it is have a kind of inhibition for many of the young people who want to write, because they may not have that kind of money.
Yeah.
And how do you think that will make a problem?
I think there are two sides, because there are vanity publishers who accept whatever is sent to them. Then there are those, maybe for their own survival, they are asking for money. But most of the good journals, they don't ask you for money. In fact, they pay you when you get published.
Very few,
very few, a handful, yes, but I remember when Kiriti came out with one of his collections, I got a small amount of 500 rupees per poem, which which was sent to me. So there are poets, there are publishers, there are vanity publishers, they are there, but it's a question of survival even for them. So
Finally, what would be your advice to young poets?
read as much as you can, because the reading habits have died. As I said, that there are more poets, but there are less people reading poetry. First, if you wish to be a poet, then you should read as many poets as possible, and you should try and understand, feel the pulse of the poem, and it's a soul connect. Try to connect with your own soul, and that's where the real poetry comes from.
Thank you very
And
much.
just a word
Ranu, for
before
your-
we wind up, what do you think of my place here at Sanctum? Do you think it is poetry friendly?
Pushpa, this is an amazing place, and I'm so happy that this is your dream project, and this is a place where you're thinking of encouraging young writers and friends to come and sit and interact with each other. It's an amazing decision and a very bold decision on your part to give this space to readers, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, Ranu.